hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I've got a very, very special guest, Spartan Bare Knuckle pit fighter Dan Ward, also known as Danny Ward, who, man, this guy has a story to tell. I mean, from surviving addiction, surviving multiple stabbings. We'll get to how many in a minute. The things that this man has come back from in his life, more than most people do in a lifetime. He is a testament to what is possible with belief, hard work, dedication, and he's one hell of a fighter as well. So obviously we'll be talking about bare knuckle pit fighting. We'll be talking about that side of pretty much the most brutal form of combat that's around anywhere, but we'll also be going a lot deeper and talking about this man's life and everything that he's overcome to get where he is. So champ, thank you for coming on the show, and I'm super happy that we're finally getting to do this basically.
No, listen, thanks very much, Liam, mate. It's an absolute honour to be on the show. It really is. I've been a follower of your work for quite some time, and I mean, it's great what you do. It is inspiring. I've said this to you before, there's a lot hits home, there's a lot can relate, and it helps a lot of people, man. It does.
Thank you, man. That means the absolute world to me. So thank you very much. Much appreciated. And like I said to you, your story is super inspiring as well. And you're in this position now to first of all get your story out there in full for what I believe is the first time publicly like this, and also to help some people and touch some lives. So I got to say it's an honor to be the person to be getting your story out there for the first time in this way as well. So let's go back in time a little bit, because we will talk about Spartan, we will talk about everything you're doing now, because obviously now you're a married man and a family man and a happy man, but obviously your life wasn't always like this. So let's go back in time a little bit to where you grew up and where your life actually started in the very beginning, please.
I mean, we'll go back to the beginning. I'll be honest, a lot of people you come across, they may have had like a bad childhood and things like this. Now, I've got to say something from the heart here. I was fortunate enough, my grandmother took custody of us at 6 weeks old. And until, unfortunately, the day I found her dead, just before I turned 13, I had everything, mate. I had everything a boy could want. But mind that sharp change from having everything to nothing. Why did that change? I must say though, like my gran spent a lot of time when I was younger. She put us into a lot of things, like swimming, track and field athletics, jiu-jitsu notably. And it seems like, when I look back in hindsight, it seems like she was trying to wrap us in cotton wool from the life that I was going to end up in anyways, but she was giving us the tools to deal with it, kind of thing. It was mad. She was a very wise woman, But yeah, I mean, happy childhood, let's say. I mean, that shop got torn apart when I lost my gran, Like she was my mum, my dad, she was my brother, my sister, she was my auntie, my uncle, she was everything, But
Yeah.
I teach and still live on this day with my children, my sisters, my nieces, all the family and that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's where the story began. I am very sorry for your loss, mate, because losing the person who was everything to you at such a young age. I mean, it must have been a terrible blow. I'm sure she'd be very proud of the man you've become today, by the way, and I mean that. And how you've turned everything around. So you had a good life until that point. After her passing, did things start to change, or was that the point where things started to change for you, or did that come a little bit later?
Oh wow, man, wow! Like my life just blew up from there. I mean, obviously, all these sports and things I was doing, I was quite a fit young lad. I was quite a big young lad. Didn't take us very long to get a bad reputation. That's all I can say. I mean, I was a grieving 13-year-old boy, and I was going through puberty and everything. I didn't know where I was at, and in all honesty, that's when I started to dabble, like with drugs and illicit substances and things like that. That was the start of a really bad addiction in hindsight. But that's how I was coping with it. It was like drinking, drugs, and fighting. I mean, half the time there probably wasn't any warrant for any of the fights or the way I was acting, but I was too young to understand. And what happened was the diagnosis with PTSD, right? Now at the age of 13, I'm going back like 1998, 99, yeah. PTSD to everybody around was something that only soldiers had. You had to have been in the army to get PTSD. So it was very hard for me to talk about it. A lot of people didn't believe it. Like they were like, "No, you're not a soldier. Like like trauma. What's that kind of thing? So it took me really. It's only the past 10 years I've been able to talk about it properly. There's not as much taboo or stigma around it as what it was when I was younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, things really started to go turbo from there. Like.
Absolutely. I mean, this is something that, well, first of all, with the mental health side of things and PTSD, I think personally it's a beautiful thing that there's so much awareness now. There's so much more, like, people can put it out there, and most people are understanding of, like, okay, that's what you're going through. But yeah, I mean, you take it back, as you say, even 10 years, that wasn't there. So that's the first thing. But when it comes to the substances and that type of thing, the other thing, just from my own experience of this with so many people I know, the younger they get involved, I would say the worse the addiction can get later on. You know what I mean? There seems to be something to that. And I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but just in my own experience, like, it seems that the younger it gets you, the more they get pulled in. So at that time, you were dabbling and you were doing a little bit of these stuff, but was it still quite sort of mild at this point, like a little bit here, a little bit there, or was it getting quite bad quite soon?
I mean, it started like I was into raves and all like that, So you can imagine what type of scene I was into there, and what kind of substance. Like, I mean, that did start to get progressively worse. Like, I moved on to harder drugs. Yeah. I mean, by the time I was getting a little bit older, I'd been recognised by a few older folk who were that way inclined. I mean, how can I point it? Yeah. It's in a bad way with some most people. Yeah. And I started getting involved in things I shouldn't have. My house was getting raided and things like that. And I mean, this is leading up to the times where, like, these attempts on my life started happening. I mean, by the time I was 16-year-old, that's when I first got stabbed. I was having a straightener with another kid who was supposed to be a tough lad, about my age. Yeah, good friends with him now as it is. And one of his friends sliders in the back of the head, and he had a posse driver with a Swiss Army knife, between his hands. So that was the first time I got stabbed, And my auntie come and seen us in the hospital. She worked at the hospital at the time, and she come and seen us, and she went, "Daniel, you've been stabbed in the back of the head here." And that's not a warning, that, son. But you got to change your ways, man. And at the time, I was too pig-headed to heed the advice, I was like, nah. Is he gone? Oh, yeah.
You're back.
I was like, sorry, mate, that was my battery going there. He was like, Danny, you're going to have to change your ways, sort of thing, And I didn't really heed our advice. In fact, I'd done the total opposite, and I got even worse, And but by the time I was 19, she was going back to see us in the hospital again, and this time it had got progressively worse. I mean, I got stabbed 36 times on my doorstep when I was 19. I had one of my neighbours, my Auntie Sandra, God bless her, she ran across the road after it had happened, and I was bleeding to death from my arm. She had to put her thumb pretty much into my arm to save my life, which in turn led to a blood clot, which travelled through my arm and into my shoulder and into my heart. So I was put into a drug-induced coma in hospital, you see, for 18 days. So my body was in a lot of pain. So you can imagine 36 holes, I mean, one of them was a slash on my face, and one was a stab in it, one was a stab in my chin. They're in my arms, they're in my legs, they're in the sides, they're around my private parts, a couple in my hand. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that was traumatic. That changed me for quite some time, and it did. There was a catalyst for my addiction as well. Like, my addiction got even worse because I was more reclused, And it took us a good few years to get my head around that, Liam. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was stabbed quite a few more times during that time as well. It is a big number. Like, I mean, I know it blew your mind, but somebody had asked us themselves and says, "Is it true you've been stabbed 56 times, Dan, in total?" I says, "No, mate. Yeah." So it was 76, and it's like what? But I mean, the last time I was stabbed was when I was in prison, 2015. And I got stabbed in HMP Bedford. What I was doing down there, mate, is nobody's business. I was remanded in Luton Airport on my birthday of all days. Yeah, I mean, that's what type of character I'd turned out to be by this time, But I will say, I thought I was bad. I thought I was real bad. And when they put me in HMP Brixton overnight, I woke up the next morning with a whole different reflection of that, you know. I mean, moving us from there to Bedford as well. I mean, I obviously I was one of the only Northerners in the jail. In fact, I was the only Northerner. I was one of the very few white men in the jail as well. That didn't go down with quite a few people, unfortunately. I mean, not all of them were the same, but that's how that worked. To work my way back to HMP, Huel, which is in Redditch. I mean, I didn't even know where Redditch was until I'd been in prison there. Do you know what I mean? To work my way back to my own local prison, Durham, which isn't the nicest of hotels, like. Yeah, I mean, that year between all them jails, that was like, look, Danny, get your shit together, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Sorry for swearing, but yeah, I mean, that was a bit of an avalanche of train of thought for you there, Liam, but sometimes I find it hard to talk about it as slowly, and I ramble sometimes.
No, you're doing well, mate. You're doing very, very well. Because like I said to you at the beginning, I mean, first and foremost, this is the first time we're putting a story out there in a public sort of space, if you like. So I got a lot of respect for you sharing all of this stuff, and it is a very, very brave thing to be doing. Do you know what I mean? It's
sorry, mate. I'm just sticking my phone on charge. I sat my battery.
No, that's no worries. Yeah, that's cool. Just that way it won't cut out on us. Yeah, that's cool. No worries. Thank you. Yeah, no, and I was just saying, you know, it's a very brave thing to put your story out there like this. I don't care what anybody says. Taking your story and taking things about your life that are very personal and putting them out there for people to listen to is a very brave thing. I got a lot of respect for you doing it, a lot of respect. And obviously, if anything is hard to talk about, you just tell me, because obviously the PTSD thing as well is and you know, some of what you've been through, obviously when we're talking about it, we're bringing it back. So if it ever gets too much, you just say and we'll slow it down. Okay, I respect that.
Nice one, man.
Yeah.
No, listen, I'll be honest with you. My wife's even, like, she's asked us a few times, all right, you know, in the past couple of weeks. So I've been thinking about it a little, do you know, and I says, I'd rather think about the past a little now, so it's not as raw when I am talking about it, you know. I'm quite proud that I'm in a position to sit here and talk about it. I really am. I have done some bad things, mate. But I'd like to think my karma's balanced now. Do you know what I mean? I've served my time in many different ways. I battled daily, man. I'm a 38-year-old bloke who still has night terrors. Do you know what I mean? I mean, them flashbacks are real things, man. They are, you know. I mean, I'm big enough and I'm daft enough and I'm hairy enough to, like, hold my hands up and say, it's okay not to be okay sometimes. It really is. Never ever give up neither. Because I tell you what, from me going from 76 stab wounds to being shot at twice to £1,000 a day crack cocaine habit. Look at us now. Look at us now, mate. Married, happily married with kids. I've got my family loving us around us again. Mind this, and my family always stood by us. They did always stood by us, mate. They didn't like it, but they did. Well, that's family, you know. It is family. But like I say, like the transformation, man, Liam, wow, I mean, it hasn't been easy. But you know, one day I sat, right, and I looked in the mirror and I thought, look at you, your sad act. This is you for the rest of your life now. Like, really. And I don't know, like, it catalysted it again, you know. At the time I was trying to, when I got out of prison, I was trying to get back in touch with my daughter, you know. And that was an opportunity given to us. And I just thought, yeah, listen, get yourself together, lad. Do you know what I mean? I mean, now it's hard to say, because I was a bit of a bad person just before that as well, you know.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, you've come a long way in your life. I mean, it's just, like I said to you before, I mean, turning it around from one of these things, turning it around from, you know, prison time, turning it around from drugs, turning it around from anything, but like multiple things, you know, that we've got here. And as you say, being a family man and everything, you know, the way you're a family man now and everything like that, I got massive respect for it, 110%, you know, and that's why I knew this is a story that has to be told, you know, when we spoke on the phone.
Listen, Liam, you know the saying, you fall down 7 times, you get up 8. I fell down hundreds of times, mate, but I'm keeping on getting up, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is that's inside us, mate, but I'll not give up, like.
Yeah.
I'll not. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, still an everyday battle. When you've had an addiction like that, you're pretty much classed as a recovering addict all your life, mate. That's how some people would brand you. Do you know what I mean? I mean, reformed is another word. There's loads of different titles or labels you could put to it. But listen, I'm just me. I'm a pretty normal guy. I mean, bar me past. Like these days, I am pretty much a normal guy. Like you'll find is, I mean, I'm either in the gym, I'm in my local, or I'm at my mother's. Do you know what I mean? I'm not out there. I'm not going wild. I'm not causing anybody any harm or stepping on anyone's toes or anything like that. Do you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
And Sporting signed up with Sporting, and listen, massive man deserves a medal or services to mental health, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I do, honest, because when I first got in touch with Christian, if I was Sporting, like I just almost lost my mother. I mean, my mum had, I think it was something like 4 or 5 cardiac arrests in a week, which has led up to now. She's pretty much got an artificial heart system. She's connected to batteries and things like that. 9-hour surgery, heart surgery, you know, to get to this point, but she's still here. And at that time, I didn't know if she was going to be here or not. And I thought, listen, Danny, you give yourself a chance, right? To like, what's the word? Like slip up sort of thing, like go back to your old ways, relapse, if you like. I thought, give yourself a chance to do this. Because I was drinking more than what I would normally as well. Or you can start, like, you need a drive of focus. I mean, like, I couldn't get myself up to go to the gym at the time. And I love training and stuff like that, you know. But this was what lit the fire. As soon as Christian gave me that green light, all right then, we're putting you on the card. I paid me deposit in, and that was it. Like the feel good factor, I kept us out the bar. Like it kept my mind focused. It was helping to sleep on a night time. Although I was still worried about my mum. Like my body was that physically tired. I was going to sleep. Do you know what I mean? And since then, it's a massive release. Now, as you can imagine, like the excuse me, like with violence being a very big part of my life, not all through my own desire, but still it has been. Sporting's brilliant for me. I've still got that little bit in the side of us that needs to be exercised in a positive manner. Do you know what I mean? And this is my platform. This is my family way of doing things. You know, I mean, my wife has asked us like, can you not just take up fishing, Danny? Do you know what I mean? Can you not just go fishing? Like, you know, I was like, well, what do you want us to do? Jump in the water and start belting the fish out of the water? Like, you know, it's not the same thing for me, you know. But yeah, that was part of my journey into Sporting. It was kind of a route of savior, you know, and redemption kind of thing at the same time. You know?
In a sense, yeah, it does. I mean, like what you said about Christian earlier, I'm going to give him a shout out a minute because I've had so many guys on this show to do with Spartan who basically say that it saved their lives. I mean, that's the way I can put it.
Yeah.
You know, saved their lives in you know, from all different things. And you know, the amount of lives that man saved. And I know obviously you have to make the decision to go in there and fight, but he's given the opportunity. Got massive respect for him on that. And the other cool thing about Spartan as well, it's like a brotherhood as well. You know, it's like
it's like nothing you've seen before, mate.
Yeah,
nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
My years now seen the togetherness in this little small family is mental. And you know what I love, right? And some people call it crazy for it. In fact, a lot of my pals do, and all the lads as well. Listen, man, we will belt 7 kinds of crap out of each other, right? And we'll shake hands. And we'll hit. The lads are all there for each other. Denominators between who can relate to each other. So it is really good to have like an outside influence sort of thing that can relate to you. And it's, you know, it's a mutual respect thing as well, because we're all battling some kind of demon in some way, you know, and that's everyone on the planet. And we are that small majority that decide to deal with it this way, you know. Mate, it's class. It's class.
Absolutely. So let's get a couple of stories from your fights then, you know, and let's just talk a little bit, because it takes absolute balls of steel to get in the pit. But obviously you've been through so much in your life prior to that it's probably like a, as you say, like a release, like an exorcism for you. So talking about, like, you know, your memories from your fights, I don't have one question about it. It would just be good to hear about what it's like for you in the pit, you know, what your expectations were before, now you've done it, you know, what it was actually like getting in there, you know, the crowd.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to share about it would be super cool, you know.
Oh, mate, I mean, I did see a couple of the lads were like, "You're nuts. Like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Like, are you alright?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, listen, it can't hurt as much as all the times I've been stabbed." I mean, mind, I'm not so sure about that now, like, because my first fight did, wow, when, like, my nose disappeared. And I walked onto it as well, mind. But like, we booked a coach, and the first one that I went to was Fight Fest 3. That's where I first fought. It was down in Oldham, middle of industrial estate. It was meant to be in the warehouse, and they wouldn't let us fight in the warehouse. It was crazy, man. Like, just rocking up like a coach full of the lads, and obviously there's other people doing exactly the same. I mean, I went to take a selfie, like, let the lads back home know I was there. It was like 17 Rye fans went past in the background, and I was thinking to myself, "Whoa, what have you got into? Yeah, like that, you know." But then obviously there was the chief superintendent, I think, had come over, and like, we had medics there and everything like that, and everything was smoothed over. And I remember the feeling. I remember the feeling traveling down there, just thinking, "Wow, I was excited." It wasn't nerves, it was excitement. But mine, when I got there, I mean, I wasn't over friendly, to say the least. To a lot of people, I was quite zoned out my first fight. In fact, I go as far to say I was probably quite ignorant to a few people. But if that applies to anybody, I do apologise. You know, I'm not that bad of a guy. Just I was right. I was right in a dark place. You know. My last fight, I don't remember very much of it. It was over quite quickly. young 80 sparked us, didn't he? I couldn't get myself back up. British middleweight title and all. I mean, I seen him at the last event, and I looked at the belt, and I went, "Ah!" And he said, "Close, stand down, man." He said, "Do you want to touch it?" You know, but that's like the banter with us. And I mean, I took a photo with 80 before the fight, and I took one with him afterwards as well, celebrating and winning as well. I actually put the belt around his waist at one point, you know, which that's my respect to him. He's a very good fighter, and he's a very good opponent. He's a nice lad as well, really nice lad. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't say that any of the lads at Spartan were any other. They're all sound kids, man, proper. Some good blokes from good stock, you know. You can see that at the events as well. You go to the events and you can see there's some proper people there, you know. There's some proper people there, mean business. But they carry themselves in a way, you know, like there's no bad vibes. It's all a mutual respect thing, you know. Which is one of the things about Spartan. I think it's unbelievable. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, 100%. I have people on here from every type of thing, you know, like all the MMA and the kickboxing and boxing and all of it. And you never see, even with a lot of other bare knuckle companies, I mean, you know, in terms of the ring now, it's great shows and everything, but the respect and the brotherhood that you guys have is different than anything else. And it's absolutely amazing. The support, like when people are having a bad time as well, you know, people are there for each other, they got each other's backs. I mean, it comes in different forms. Talk to us a little bit about like how fast it is in the pit, because one of the things is you watch the fights and it's faster than anything. And the other thing is you've got to be tough as anything anyway, because you've got to take a few shots. You've got to get your bell rung at least once or twice to be able to get close to the other guy. So how fast does it actually go when you're in there physically?
Wow, a lot faster than what you think. It's crazy, man. I mean, I don't know. Like I've watched fights back, like my own, others as well, like on the thing. And it's mental because when you're in there, I mean, I don't speak for everybody. Everyone, the experience will be different, I guess. But it always seems to be hour fast. I mean, even my first fight, that went on for about. I'm not going to lie. There was times when I was throwing a few hands and be taking some doing, yeah. But then the fight was over, and I look back and I watched the video, and I was like, yeah, it was like 2 minutes, or like that was like a minute and a half. It doesn't even seem that when you're in there. You get in there and you've got to be bang at it from the go, you know.
Yeah. It's insane, man. I mean, you watch it and it's like lightning, you know. I mean, it is absolutely like, oh, like, well, faster than anything else I've seen, you know. And that is the thing.
I've tasted both sides of the pit here now.
Yeah.
You're constantly in range, Liam, you know. So there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. There's no doubt about it. You're going to get a clip. You're going to get a clip, at least one or two, you know. But it is what it is. That's the nature of the game that we're doing now. Well, it's not a game like I call it sport. I do. It's definitely not a game. You don't play it like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You don't play it, but it is, like I said to you at the beginning, I mean, it is absolutely amazing. It's one of the most brutal forms of combat out there. And it's like, you know, when you, listen to the fights as well, you can actually hear the whack, you know. I mean, this is the other thing, like you can hear when people hit, and you think, you know, that is some blunt force trauma in all sense of the word. That has got a sting. But you said earlier about like being stabbed so many times and everything like that. Run it by me again. How is the pain of like being hit with a bare fist comparable to a knife? Are they totally different from each other, or is it they hurt about the same?
No, they're totally different levels. Totally different levels. Like the blunt force trauma, it will hit you in a different way. I mean, I've had concussion a few times. You know, both my fights I had concussion. You know, it's a delayed thing. Like it will have an after effect like that. It's a knife wound. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, mate. I really wouldn't. Some of them I didn't even know I had. You know, some of them are just small lacerations. You know, but the ones that went deep, and the ones in my face and things like that. I mean, like a black eye. You know, you break your cheekbone or your jaw, something a black eye. It's done in 6 weeks. Like it's caused permanent, man, especially on your face. You know what I mean? It's one of the reasons why I prefer a good stubble or a beard. You know, down since I was younger. Like when I was swollen when I was younger, I was really, really, really paranoid about them. I always thought people were looking at them. You know, they probably weren't. They probably didn't even know I had them. But that's the difference. Like with the that's physically. Yeah, getting stabbed hurts more than being punched. That's a given. Yeah, but it's the after trauma sort of thing from being stabbed to having a black eye. Like you take a kick and you dust yourself off, didn't you? You know, you dust yourself off and you carry on. Being stabbed up, it takes a little bit more to do to dust yourself off and pick yourself back up. You know, it's a psychological hit as well.
Yeah. And with that in mind, because we'll come back to Spartan in a minute, but I'm just curious with that as well, because you said earlier, right back at the beginning, about having PTSD anyway, from a young age, and obviously then being stabbed and everything as well. And you said about flashbacks and stuff. Can you share with us a little bit about the physical recovery from being stabbed, but the mental recovery as well, as many times as you have? Because obviously you've pulled your body back not only to the level it was before, but like obviously with what you're doing now, like a high level of fitness as well and everything, you know. So you've pulled your body and your mind back to like a high level from what you've been through. So from being stabbed, what was the physical and the mental recovery from, especially because it was so many times, you know?
The physical recovery was horrible because I mean some recoveries have been easier than others. Obviously, the big one when I got stabbed when I was 19, that was really hard to recover from because it was the wild out on my body. I didn't know which side of my body I could limp on. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't sit. I couldn't roll over. Scratch my face in the middle of the night. My stitches were coming out and things like that. You know. I mean, I had to do a lot of physio. I was written off by a doctor when I was 19 with my left arm, because that's what took most of the brunt from that attack. You know, trying to like block and defend myself, sort of thing. I chose to go back to work. I thought I was too young to be written off. You know, I wasn't just going to sit around and toss about. I mean, I must admit, I do lose the grip of my left arm quite a lot. Anyone who knows us will tell you that it goes sometimes because it was in this arm, just below my elbow, and when the knife was stuck in, it was twisted. So like a lot of my tendons are knackered in there. But since I've been training for the past couple of years, notably since I've stepped it up training for Spartan, I've been pushing myself more. I'm getting a lot of feeling back in my arm.
It's good. Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, I didn't notice this. I was talking to my brother on back. He went, I believe in that. He says, I've seen things like that, you know. He went, keep it up. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I feel good with it as well. Because like I say, there has been times in my life where it has been a problem for us, especially when I was younger. You know, I couldn't lift it up. I couldn't lift my arm up. It was just like limp, you know. And the psychological side of it, if I'm completely honest, mate, I still haven't recovered from it now. Just learn to deal with it better. You know what I mean? So, like I say, we're already suffering with PTSD. You know, imagine that hasn't helped me. Like I said, I do wake up in the middle of the night in cold sweats quite a lot. My poor wife, like, bless her, she'll even say, Danny, you're all right, you're having a bad dream. You know what I mean? She'll sit with us while I calm myself back down sometimes. I find that like sometimes when I'm out and about, or something, and every now and then I'll just stop and I think, right, Danny, pull yourself together. Come on, just carry on. Do you know what I mean? I mean, thankfully, as you can imagine, it was quite a rough estate at the Nook, you know. Yeah. It's a lot better these days, like, a lot better, you know. Not as many characters like that running about. Everyone's a bit more grown up now.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's the same everywhere you go, Liam. You got good and you got bad, you know. And I was tangled up in with some bad ways myself. So, I guess I was no better at the time. I wouldn't say I deserved it, mind, because it's been a massive thing on my life. 38-year-old now, still waking up in the middle of the night, you know. Not just from that one attack, but like you say, I mean, so many times, mate, you know. It is quite hard. It's took us a long time to be able to sit with me back to a window as well, since my windows got blew out with a shotgun, you know, which was in a revenge for that stab, and obviously I didn't take too kindly for it, and I tried to give it, you know, the big and one desert some kind of revenge sort of thing, you know, and that backfired quite literally through my window with a 410 shotgun shell, and that kind of calmed us a little, well, it calmed us a lot, but it pushed us back into myself as well, you know. And it's like, I look back now and I think, you know, I've come through all of this now. I shouldn't be in fear anymore. I'm not in fear anymore. It's just, like, I've had a lot of people say it was in the past as well. I don't know why wouldn't you just let go of the past? And I've said, listen, man, the past won't let go of me. Do you know what I mean? I still had a lot on my conscience coming up to getting married and settling down, you know, processing all these things and leaving all that kind of life behind us. Not as frequent now, like, they're not. But yeah, I do still wake up, like, I'd say at least once a week. At least once a week I'll wake up in the middle of the night, covered in sweat from head to toe, absolutely choking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't take the medication that they give us for it, because Liam had us on that many different medications from being 13-year-old, you know, like until my mid-20s. I was like, how am I? I don't think I've got a bad enough problem with drugs at the moment, without us taking yours as well. Do you know what I mean? So like, training's my medicine now, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, it's amazing how you are managing it and everything. I mean, it's like I said, when we spoke on the phone, I was lost for words, and there's times I hear the story and I'm like, man, there's nothing I can say that really does it justice, in terms of what you've achieved in this context. I do have to ask though, one thing here that I think people would like to know, and it's not to get into anything too personal, so you'll see where I'm going with this, but when you got married and that type of stuff, how do you explain something like some of the things you've been through to your partner, if you don't mind me asking? Because she obviously supports you through it and everything, which I think is a beautiful thing, because, you know, a lot of people don't have that. But I was just curious, like, I mean, unless she's from the same type of background, but otherwise you'd have to sit down and say, well, look, these are some things that happened, you know, and obviously with scars on you and things. How did that come about, if you don't mind me asking, with this side of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, my wife actually thought I was trying to put her off us when I was first getting to know my wife, you know, and I was quite blunt about it, you know. And she was like, "You really seem to be trying to put us off you." I said, "Look, like, I've got to let you know these kind of things, you know. I might come across a nice guy and all like that, but I have got a lot of underlying issues mentally, you know. I mean, I keep them together very well, but I've got to make you aware of a few of these things, you know." In a way, a bit, you know, trust has been a big thing in my life. Obviously, you know, you doubt yourself, you doubt other people at times when things like that have happened to you. Do you know what I mean? But on a funny note, my wife used to sit right watching a movie, and she used to sit and like stroke my arm, you know. She used to say, "Can you not feel that?" I said, "What?" And she was trying to nip us. I said, "I've got no feeling in the top of my arm, Mel." And she went, "Eh?" She went, "I've been tickling your arm watching movies for the past 3 weeks, and you could have told us this." I says, "There's no feeling in it, you know." I mean, it's coming back a lot more now, but like, she laughs about it. I mean, bless her, she's used to us waking up in the middle of the night with these nightmares and that now. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, right? I've got to give a massive shout out to the wife. I have. My mother and my sisters as well. Because listen, mate, I didn't even like myself some days. I didn't. But they love us every day. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, I think it's a lot easier for my wife to deal with, knowing that I'm not in that life anymore, and I'm not that guy. and those things aren't a possibility anymore. I mean, it has shocked her on quite a few things. You know what I mean? And there's still some things that my wife doesn't know. That's not like hiding them from. It's some things that my mum doesn't know, my sister doesn't know, my best mate. There's some things that I will hold. I'll hold them with me. You know what I mean? Because to be fair, it would probably blow their minds. It would probably make them ill. Do you know what I mean? So I have got to safeguard them in some ways like that. But I mean, I think, well, my mother's definitely used to us being bomb, and the missus is getting used to this. Realise you've lost your marbles. Do you know what I mean? Just settled into it.
Yeah. Well, it does take some getting used to. I mean, even with everything you've done in your background. I mean, the pit fight thing as well. That's another one. So yeah, I'd imagine they had to get their head around it. But it's good that they support you now. And I have to give that a shout out to her as well, because that's a big part of your story, and I think it's a beautiful thing of how she supports you and you support her, and the recovery, amazing side of things. Absolutely fair play. And I also wanted to get your advice for people who are struggling with addictions and things, because focusing in just a little bit on the addiction. I mean, you've obviously kicked one hell of a habit with, like what you mentioned earlier, £1,000 a day. So obviously it's a great opportunity for us to put this out there for people who are struggling, whether it's to that degree that you were struggling, or whether it's less. It doesn't matter really. They're all struggling. So people are in that position. People have got family who are in that position as well. If they're listening to this, what would you say to those people that they can do to start to change their ways?
Listen, quite simply, you've got to make the change. You've got to start now. Never. Is this you for the rest of your life, Dan? Is this what you've come to? All the hard work your grandmother put into you as a kid, the love and support you've had from your family. Like, is this really like what's boiling down? This is what you want to be? And I don't know, man. Like I say, the catalyst of like me family life is what saved me. And I tell you now, it wasn't easy, man. It's probably one of the hardest things I've done in my life, and that is the truth, mate. And I don't. It's the best thing I do. I look back and sometimes and I do hang my head in shame a little bit, but I sort of pick that back round now, not to kick myself while I'm down, sort of thing, and think, I will look where you are now, keep going. Listen, if I can do it, then they can't. I'm not saying they or he or we or she. Listen, it doesn't matter who you are, right? If you have that fight inside of you, that will to win, to enjoy, to have a life, like, you'll get it. You really will. I mean, listen, I've clawed myself back again and again and again and again and again. I don't know how many times my name's been in the mud, and I've dragged it back out. I've dusted it off, and I've conducted myself in a better manner to do this. But listen, never give up. Make that start. Like anyone who's, you've got to go and find the help. And the second thing is, if you've got people around you when you're struggling with addiction, who are all these people? What are they influence? Are they sitting there doing these things with you? Because I'm telling you, all they care about is their next hit and what you can do for them. Like, you've got to make a start and you've got to make a stand. Never give up neither, because it can be done. Like, it can be done. I've come back multiple times from multiple different things. Again, it wasn't easy. No, it wasn't. Some of it was hell, mate, absolute hell. But believe you me, I look back now and I was in the town centre earlier on today, and I walked past the guy, and I wouldn't say I associate, but yeah, I guess in a way I kind of did. Like we were both doing them drugs together and stuff like that, and I looked at him like he's out shopping for him, but like he was laughing his head off, he carried on, and I was like, you don't want to change. Like, he's quite happy living that existence. Do you know what I mean? And I look around us and I have my wife, my sister, and my mother with us, and I thought, like, yeah, you've done it. Do you know what I mean? You've done it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I have reached out to this person a couple of times, actually. I stopped a couple of people robbing them with his money and stuff like that. And I've seen them taking it out and says, "Oh, give me his money back," sort of thing, and sent him on the way. But he still went and spent that money on a fix. So really, should I have let him be robbed? I don't know. Like, what can you do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, people got to be ready to help themselves. That's the thing as well. It's a two-way street with that. Like you say, you reached that point where you couldn't go any further, and people have to reach that point some sooner, some later. But still, it's beautiful advice, and I really hope that that touches some lives of people listening to this, whether it's directly or whether it's indirectly. You know, and they got family members and everything, whatever. I mean, putting your advice out there because you've done it and you show people what can be done. So that's the beauty of it. So moving into the last couple of things, because you know we've been talking about some good stuff. I want to touch on one other thing, and I don't know how easy this will be to talk about, and then we'll go back to Spartan and talk more about that. But you also mentioned earlier about the conscience thing and about that side of things. And I was just curious of your process, if you don't mind me asking this, of how you've gone to a process of forgiving yourself. I mean, it's possibly an ongoing process, but you know how you've gone through a process of like forgiving yourself. So you can look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm not a bad person. Because the thing is, when I look at you, when I'm talking to you and everything like that, I definitely don't see a bad person. I mean, I know you've been into some bad things and everything, but like what you said about when you've been in jail and that, when you meet the people who are really bad to the core, like, you know what I mean, and they got no love, they got no empathy, they got no humanity left in them, whatever that is. I've just seen it where you look in some people's eyes and stuff, and there's just nothing there, you know. And it's like I don't know even know what it is, but it's separate from like anybody like yourself who's obviously been a bit mixed up and been into some bad shit, but at the same time you still got a good heart, you know what I'm saying? That's what I see
Yeah.
anyway. But in your own words, how have you gone through the process of basically forgiving yourself for anything that you may have done in your background?
Some things I really haven't forgiven myself for, and I think that's what helps us keep being a good person. I really do. Um, I mean, some of the things I have had to let go of myself because I can't change the past. Now, I believe I've done everything in my moral conscience to reach out to anybody who I've ever wronged or harmed and put right those wrongs. Sorry, I really do believe I have. I mean, maybe it's not everybody appreciates that, or maybe it's the people in question might not appreciate that. All I can really do to keep I've always had morals, manners, and principles and respect. Now, those are some things that I lost during addiction, and it was like it stripped me of my soul, kind of thing. So what I do is I just try to adhere to the teachings that my grandmother gave us when I was a kid, and I try and install them in my children. It doesn't take 2 minutes to go out my way for somebody. I don't mind going out my way to help anybody they need, and I will. I've got all the time in the world. I have. So I guess it's just little things like that as well. But again, on saying that, like it's actually just dawned on me there probably when I said I haven't forgiven myself for quite a lot. It's probably one of the things I keep striving is to be better. But not completely forgiving myself for some things. Some things are probably unforgivable for some. Um, so I need to bear that in mind as well. That's the cross I've got to bear. You know what I mean? All my punishment, that thing. You know?
Yeah. Well, it must be a process. And to be honest, I obviously figured that it's a process that you're still going through, you know, one step at a time, one day at a time and everything. But yeah, I mean, that's, you know what they always say. I mean, there's that old saying in there, I don't strive to be better than anyone else. I only strive to be better than who I was yesterday.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, that's all anybody can do, you know, and there's different degrees, there's different levels of it. But that's all anybody can do, you know, never be competing with other people, just be competing with yourself and the way you used to be. And that takes you to some good places, you know. It is a journey,
Yeah, it is.
but it's a journey, you know, worth going on. So we touched on Spartan earlier, and we talked a little bit about your fights that you've had. So I think a lot of people would like to know where you'd like to go from here with Spartan, and you know what you've got coming up next, basically, and what your dream is from here with them, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fighting on the next event. A lot of people thought I had retired. I didn't say I was retiring. I said I wasn't fighting until further notice. I had some pressing family matters, which have been organised now. But yeah, the next Spartan event's Spartan 14 on now. Spartan Wars 14, June 24th, Bradford Hotel. Fighting a bloke called Phil Hartley. I think he's had one fight before. Yeah, he did. He fought Dino at the last event. Best of luck to the man. I mean, obviously, mutual respect for getting in there. Obviously, I predict the win. I'm not cocky. I'm confident. Let's see where it takes us. That's all I'm saying just now. I haven't took my eye off one of them shiny belts yet. You know, I was that close. I could almost taste it. I haven't forgotten about it neither. Yeah, whether that be at middleweight, whether it be a lighter or heavier weight, I don't know. But I'm not going nowhere yet. I signed a 2-year contract last year with Spawn, and I intend to fulfil it. That by the way will take me up to 40-year-old. And looking at Phil Hammond, big shout out. Looking at Phil going at 55, I've still got 15 years of me. So yeah, we'll see where it goes, Liam. I'm quietly confident. I'm saying this with a little smirk on my face because I know a few years will be twitching, you know. When this comes out, a few years I'll be wanting to know if I'm heading in their direction or if I'm stepping into their lane or who knows or what. But I'm not going nowhere, mate. I'm loving it. I'm quite proud of myself, to be honest with you. In August last year, I was probably one of the only lads up there involved with the Bare Knuckle, especially with Spartan. Now there's like 6 or 7 when there's a handful of it. It's grown. I mean, it's getting massive, not just in my own town, but in its own right around the world. So yeah, I'm buzzing with it, man, and I'm looking forward to the future as well. I am. It gives us, it's again something to look forward to, man. Something that's built towards some kind of it's ambition, it's drive, you know, it's motivation, it's good structure for us, mate. It's a lot of things spawn, you know. But honest to God, I've said it a million times. It's like nothing that you've been through before, or nothing you've been involved in before. You could have all the stereotypical thoughts of how it is or what it should be, but when you get there, you're in awe. Like you take it in, it's like, wow, this is class. This is mint. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the future is very bright for you, mate. I mean, there's a lot of big fights out there and everything, but as well as winning titles and, you know, getting into top quality fights, it's what you represent as a person, you know, by being a fighter and by doing everything you do. And what I mean by that is everything we've talked about today, you know, just by walking around and being a happy man and being a family man and being a fighter, you show people what's possible. And you show people what can be done, you know. And this is the funny thing about it, just by being you, if you like, you know, and people hearing this story, it shows people what can be done. And I think the future is very, very bright in Spartan. And it's an amazing thing, you know, that there were times when, from the story I've been hearing, where you probably thought you weren't even going to be alive or whatever at, say, this age, or who would have thought you'd even be alive at this age, or at least in one piece, you know. And obviously here you are, not only alive, but thriving, you know. And I mean, I know obviously the struggles are there. I hear you on that, but at the same time, having a wife, having a family, having a successful fighting career, I mean, it's absolutely, I'm happy for you that you're in such a good place. And I mean that from the heart, you know what I'm saying, from everything you've come from. Absolutely amazing. Well, we've talked about some good things, and what I'll say with this is we'll wrap this up today, but a few more fights down the line, I'd be happy to do another one, you know, because obviously it would be really good to hear about like how you've progressed, you know, through the ranks with Spartan and everything a little bit further down the road as well. So if you want, yeah, you know where to find me. We'll definitely sort something with that. In the meantime, let's get this one out there. I want to thank you for being an open book, and I want to thank you for sharing some of the things you shared, because some of the things you shared, I mean it when I say it does take a lot of courage to put this type of stuff out there. And I know you're a very honest person, a very open person, and I know you're choosing to do this, but it takes a lot of courage. And for me being the first one to sort of help you put it out there in this way, it's a real honor. So I want to say thank you for all those things, mate, you know.
Yeah, thank you, William, for having us on, mate. It's a massive platform for us. It's something I never ever dreamed I'd be doing in my life, but here we are. And just while I'm at it, Liam, just like to give a brief mention to my sponsors, yeah.
Please do.
Bible Custom Rifle Stocks, the Derby Pub, Williams Carpet Cleaning, and BR Plastering. I'd also like to give a massive shout out to Richie Pinky, my coach, Danny Kane and Adam Lufa for helping us out, Denny Tennant and the lads for getting me sponsor sorted, all the boys for the continued support, man. they keep filling these buses that would take down to these fights, you know. They're with us 100%, the people are. So massive thanks to everybody, family, friends, all of you, the fans. Again, respect to Christian Roberts, man, and yourself, Liam. I wouldn't be in this position without either of you, you know, and I do appreciate it.
Well, from my side, you're very welcome, and giving everybody a mention, that's beautiful. That's a really good thing to be doing, get their names out there, because there's a lot of people helping people behind the scenes, you know what I mean? Obviously, you know them and they know you, and in your community and everything, you're together, but for everyone else, they're sort of behind the scenes, so to give them the recognition they deserve, absolutely spot on. I love that. So
yeah, I couldn't have even got to the first event without the help of some of the lads, you know. I couldn't have made it. I couldn't have trained for it or nothing, and I couldn't do it without the continued support, like I say, friends and family. It's not just me, you know. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. So big up to everybody who's there.
Yeah, big up to all of them. Big up, one love to all of them. And thank you, champ. It's been a real honor. I've enjoyed it. So thank you for your time. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you again, Liam, mate. Good night. God bless. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take care, my man.
God bless you too. And I'll be in touch over the next couple of days. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.